Hello friends, this is Post-Nap Worm here today, and I wanted to talk about threaded specters and swarm grenades, and just kind of offer some thoughts on how Bungie could potentially change them in the future. We know that they are going to be tuned. We saw in the TWAB yesterday that they're looking at changing those in early August. So we know that their time's coming to an end. But I think a lot of people are really not happy with where they are. A lot of people saying they're OP, blah, blah, blah. So I figured we'd offer at least some potentially, some game changes to these things, but not like a total game changer, not make them completely unviable in Crucible and stuff like that. But with that being said, I want to start with Threaded Specter because Threaded Specter is the easiest one, in my opinion, to fix. And remember, when talking about nerfing something, it's very important to point out we don't want to nerf anything to the point where it's unusable. Okay, and that's a very important thing to point out because I know some people would say, oh, like, kill it, destroy it, knock it into the ground so it has no viability whatsoever. And the same thing happened with like Trampled Titan several years ago. Post Forsaken era, one-eyed mash, Trampled Titan, you get killed by the same Titan 5 times in Super, but we don't want to kill it completely dead. We want to nerf it so that it's still good, it still has its uses, but it's not quite as strong. And really, I think that's part of the problem. I'm going to kind of deviate here for just a second. I think part of the problem is with Strand, is with Prismatic. Because Prismatic allows you to get your subclass abilities back very quickly when you're using them, so you can throw a swarm grenade, then your melee and your dodge charge faster, then you can dodge and your melee and grenade charge faster. Then you can also pair that with Heart of Inmost, not Heart of Inmost Light, but the Spirit of Inmost Light, which will cool down those abilities even further, so you can really build into the spam ability of grenades and melees and stuff like that. The first change I think I would actually say is probably one of the best changes you could do is just change it so that Prismatic does not work in the Crucible. Or not Prismatic doesn't work, but the quicker ability cooldowns don't work in the Crucible, because currently they do, albeit I believe they are a little bit slower. I don't play a whole lot on Prismatic inside the Crucible, full disclosure, but it does still have that effect. So maybe just removing that could potentially start to see a decline in the usage of these of these abilities. But with that being said and that out of the way, let's talk about Threaded Specter in particular. The only thing I really think Bungie needs to do to Threaded Specter is give it a longer cooldown. Give it the same cooldown as Acrobat's Dodge. Acrobat's Dodge, of course, has a long cooldown because it gives you an offensive ability. Class abilities are historically more designed to be defensive, with the exception of Warlock abilities like Arc Soul, Hellion, and stuff like that. But Warlock Rifts also have a long cooldown. Hunter Dodge, currently, I think you can get it down to like as fast as like 15 seconds or 16 seconds for a cooldown, which is really fast. Then you pair it with something like, a strategist weapon or a classy contender, origin trait, and you can get them back even faster. So just increasing the cooldown to the same thing as Acrobat's Dodge, because like I was saying a second ago, Acrobat's Dodge is an offensive ability, so it has that long cooldown. Threaded Specter, kind of the same thing. It has offensive capabilities. It has the ability to explode and deal damage, and it sends out thread legs, and you could pair it with the new exotic, oh god, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the new exotic boots that give it even more hatchlings and stuff, so I think that just increasing the cooldown to make it match that of Acrobat's Dodge would see a substantial drop in usage, but not completely eliminate it from the game. I mean, it's still a very good aspect, it still has that offensive capability. If you run into a room and realize, oh crap, blah blah blah, whatever's going on, you could dodge back out of the room, leave your clone there that could potentially damage people, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I think that's really the only thing that you need to do to the clone. One other thing I would like to see Bungie do with clone is decrease the life of aim assistance on those clones. Of course, when somebody dodges in front of you in combat, those things suck your aim assistance so hard towards them, and that's incredibly difficult. That makes it very difficult to win gunfights, but at the same time, it comes at the cost of a class ability. So I'm okay with it helping to win gunfights in the initial stages of the said gunfight, but whenever that clone's been there for 5-10 seconds and it's still sucking all your aim assistance towards it, that probably should be changed. I think Bungie maybe should change it so that maybe half a second it has that really strong aim assistance, and then after half a second your aim assistance now draws back onto the player. That way players can't dodge, you know, and kind of strafe around behind it, still shooting you with very little aim assistance, or little to no aim assistance, I should probably say, while you're struggling to shoot them because that clone is just pulling your aim towards it. But those are the two changes I think should happen to Threaded Specter. And two, I think those are also very reasonable to ask for. You know, this would not kill the Threaded Specter, it would not make it completely unviable, but it would give it that nerf to bring it a little bit more in balance with other things in the game. But with Threaded Specter out of the way, I want to talk about Swarm Grenade now, because Swarm Grenade's a little bit more difficult. Because Swarm Grenade, in my opinion, it's really not an insanely strong grenade. Ever since Trip Mines got nerfed, players have started branching out to different grenades. I've seen, you know, a ton of healing grenades in the Crucible. In fact, historically, I think healing grenades have been, you know, the strongest in terms of solar grenades. But now with Prismatic, we don't have healing grenades. We have access to all these, you know, other grenades. And I think that for the most part, when you look at Prismatic Hunter grenades, the Swarm Grenade really is the best option. I mean, you could make an argument for some of the other grenades, but I think that the Swarm Grenade is the best PvP option. Currently, it's got a good cooldown. Of course, it's got that tracking, the ability to scorch. It's got a lot built into it. Now, when it comes to Swarm Grenades, I think Bungie should lean in one of a few directions, okay? Number one, lean into it being an area of denial grenade. Bungie should lean into it being an aggressive grenade that you can use to really get kills easily and quickly, or something like that. And I want to talk about kind of each of those. So the first one being the area of denial grenade. I think this is, a lot of people use Swarm Grenades in this way. They like to throw them down at, like, say, a doorway. Then it prevents players from walking through the doorway. Sometimes they'll throw them down on an enemy player's orb in the Crucible, for example, and that prevents, you know, people from getting the revive. That's all fine and dandy. But if they're going to lean into this area of denial style for the Swarm Grenade, which you know, again, which one's better, I don't really know. I'd leave that up to Bungie, which is more the style of the grenade. But if you're going to do the area of denial, I would say that keeping the damage where it is probably a bit extreme. Like, area of denial is not so much about damage, it's more about preventing people from going into something. For example, Vortex Grenade. Vortex Grenade and Solar Grenades, they are more along the lines of those area of denial. You know, throw them on a flag, throw them in a doorway. Players aren't going to walk through them. Now, yes, I can run through a Vortex Grenade, taking a little bit of damage, but it's not a whole lot of damage. It's more just a deterrence, like, hey, you should probably stay away from this, right? And so it's kind of, you know, same principle with the Swarm Grenade. But in order for that to happen, I think you'd have to reduce the damage that it does so that it's not dealing quite so much damage. And I think that you would want it to have potentially really strong tracking whenever you are in its very close vicinity, but that tracking should fall off after you move away from it. Again, as an area of denial grenade, like, let it have the same tracking radius. So once it starts tracking you, it starts coming towards you. But as you move away from it, instead of having to turn around and beeline it away and really, like, you know, run away from it, you can just kind of back up and the tracking will lay off, you know, and it'll you know, kind of teeter off, you know, so it'll start coming towards you quick, and then it slows down as you get away. I think that'd be a good start, as of course well as reducing the damage. But I also think that once you get into that, you know, that Swarm Grenade, they should have a little bit more of an area of effect detonation. That way you can't just run through a Swarm Grenade or run really close by a Swarm Grenade and get away from it. Like, if you're gonna get within that, you know, that half-meter range, maybe a meter range of a Swarm Grenade, you should be getting tagged by it, right? It should be aggressively seeking you out. You know, maybe you can make an argument if you run like a meter away, it starts tracking you and then loses tracking, but you want it to be something that players are deterred from walking through, right? So that's the area of denial changes. Now, the other idea I had is leaning more into an aggressive, you know, an aggressive grenade, something that's really going to track down and get kills. And this one, I would say that honestly, Bungie should increase the tracking, make them really seek out targets, but make that radius super, super small. Like, make the detection radius really small, okay? And decrease the life of the actual swarm explosives by like half, maybe even 3/4, right? So you would have a situation where the Swarm Grenade, it's a very, very aggressive grenade. If somebody is in your Swarm Grenade, they're gonna be hit by it. There's no getting away from it. They're gonna be aggressively tracked and attacked by it. But if you throw it in a doorway as a means of area of denial, with those Seekers lasting way less amount of time, like that's not really a viable strategy. Like, you can keep somebody off of a point for like maybe like half a second before they start disappearing. Now, I would also say that instead of just instantly disappearing over the course of like half a second or something like that, maybe if they are actively swarming a target, they have increased duration, you know? So, for example, somebody's gonna rush you with a shotgun, you know, and you know they're about to come, so you jump up in the air and you throw a swarm grenade, and it hits them right in the head as they walk through. They can't just keep running to get away from it. Like, those swarms will actively seek them out. They have longer duration because they're actively tracking, and they're gonna hit their target. Similar to like a Shinobu's bow skip grenade. Shinobu's vow skip grenade. You know, those are very aggressive seeking targets, or aggressive at seeking their targets. But with swarm grenade, you know, have it be that same way. But of course, with a much shorter duration in terms of their actual life on the battlefield, it removes the ability for them to be an area of denial type thing. And you could still pair them with Threaded Specter, like with, you know, with these changes we're talking about here, you could still pair them with Threaded Specter, you know, do a Threaded Specter, you know, there goes your dodge ability for like a minute or whatever it is, or 48 seconds, I think. At tier 10 mobility, it's like 48 seconds to get a Threaded, or to get Acrobat's dodge back. And of course, we want Threaded Specter to have the same cooldown as Acrobat's dodge. Anyways, but it takes 48 seconds to get your class ability back at tier 10 mobility, but then you can throw a swarm grenade on it. That way, if somebody walks into your combo there, they're going to die. And this is something that, you know, I really don't know why Bungie has moved away from the Wombo combo. You know, the Wombo combo, age-old thing back in Destiny 1, the let's see, what was the Void Hunter. It was, you would throw a smoke bomb down and then you would throw a grenade down, and that would guarantee a kill, right? And I think that it kind of still should be that way. If you're using two abilities, it should guarantee you a kill. Like, one ability or another, not enough for a kill. They can help you in the battlefield, but if you're using two abilities, you should get a kill. And it's the same thing. If you have a Threaded Specter that's on a 48-second cooldown as its fastest cooldown speed, you should be able to get a kill if you pair it with a swarm grenade. And of course, the circumstances are right. You know, you have somebody walk around the corner into your Threaded Specter, throw your swarm grenades. It should kill them, or it should get them almost dead. It should get them one shot from basically anything. But yeah, sorry, got a little bit off on a tangent there, but you know, those are the two options for swarm grenade. Again, you lean to that area of denial, make them have a longer lifespan, make them have you know, not so aggressive tracking. You know, if you get close to them, if you decide to walk through and you're gonna get hit by it, but if somebody throws it, you know, and you actually, in terms of the area of denial, you could also add on that there's like an arming sequence, right? So you throw it and they pop up in their little array, and for about 0.2 seconds, maybe 0.3 seconds, they won't track at all. Like, they'll still explode if you walk into them, but they won't track at all because they're arming. But once they're armed, then of course, as you get close, they'll start tracking you. But when you move away from them, they stop tracking you. And it's much more rigid in terms of when it starts tracking, when it stops tracking. Again, I think that, you know, currently, well, actually not currently, if you're currently up against a swarm grenade, you can run away from it, but it chases you until it explodes. I think that should be changed. But again, lean one way or the other. Don't do all these nerfs. Again, we don't want to nerf swarm grenade into the ground. We don't want to make it a pointless grenade. I mean, it was already an underused grenade for years in Destiny 2. You know, Trip Mine was just better. But yeah, and of course there's the change, you know, to Prismatic itself. Just make it so that you can't get your abilities back faster inside the Crucible. But I'll leave that all up to Bungie. Tell me what you think about Threaded Specter and swarm grenades. Do you think that they should be nerfed the way I said? Do you have different ideas? Just tell me all that stuff in the comments. Of course, if you like today's video, do me a favor, drop a like. It helps the channel out a lot. Subscribe for more daily Destiny content, conversations, topics, stuff like that. And do me a favor, watch the videos you see here on the end screen, because for whatever reason, YouTube thinks you'll like them. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.